I knew who Jesus was, but he just wasn't important in my life. I just went to church I never went to church to worship God. I went to church to hang out with my friends and look at the pretty girls, honestly. But I did get baptized at the age of 14. It was just a Sunday when everybody in my youth group got baptized together. So I really didn't know the whole meaning behind it. As I continued to grow, my life kind of became like that old recliner that you have at home that you don't want to get rid of because it's comfortable. You go home every night, you sit down in it, you expect to get that comfort feeling. That's what my life was. My life was comfortable. It wasn't pretty, but it was comfortable. I spent about 25 years in that chair, being comfortable. By the age of 12, I was looking at pornography. At the age of 16, I started drinking alcohol and doing drugs. That life it was comfortable. I enjoyed it. But I hid that life from my family. I didn't let my parents know any of that. That recliner, you go through life and you start patching the holes and tightening the screws and trying to keep it together. And sometimes you put a slip cover over that chair to try to cover up that ugliness. Well, that's what I would do around my family. I put that slip cover on because I didn't want them to see how ugly I was. But my closest friends, they really knew how ugly I was inside. But to them, I wasn't ugly because that was just a lifestyle that everybody in my age group was living at the time. In 1994, 4 days after I graduated high school, I went to jail for possession of marijuana and for underage drinking. I never told my parents about it at the time. About a month later, my youth group went to Colorado for a youth conference trip. And when I got back, they picked me up at the airport. And on the way home, they started asking me about being arrested. Because while I was gone, they got a letter in the mail from the police department. It had my name on it, but when they saw a police department return address, they opened it up. So there was no denying what had happened. That was one of the hardest conversations I ever had with my parents, explaining that to them. Over about the next 15 years, I started selling drugs. I kept doing drugs. I dated a lot of women. I had sexual relationships with over 20 women. In 2005, it was Christmas night, and I was coming home from my girlfriend's house about 2 o'clock in the morning. I hit a man that was walking in the middle of the road that night and killed him. In 2009, the girl I was dating at the time, we got engaged after 2 months of dating. I was finally going to try to make it work with somebody. But that relationship lasted about a year, and then we broke up again. I was always just living for myself, being selfish. Never worried about God, never worried about anybody else. But then in January 2011, a friend of mine invited me to come here to this church back when it was still Blue Ridge. I came, I checked it out, and I enjoyed the music that was playing. I enjoyed the atmosphere. I was finally coming into this chair number one, and I was coming to see if this church had anything to offer me in my life. About a year later, my friends started going to another church. So then I was here all alone by myself. I'd always sit in that very back row back here, and after service I'd get up and leave. Wouldn't really talk to anybody. In 2014, I started dating one of my old girlfriends again, and of course things weren't going too good. Something was just missing in my life. So I come and I met with Todd, and I asked him about becoming a member of this church, about getting baptized for the second time. Could you even get baptized twice? I wasn't sure. Then I decided to go buy my first Bible, my first new Bible for myself. And I took that Bible home and I sat down, and for the first time in my life, I really prayed to God, asking him, is this relationship the relationship that you have laid out for me? And then I asked God, where do I start reading in this new Bible? Where do I start? I had my eyes closed, and I opened that Bible, and I put my finger down. And it was 1 Corinthians 13. I'm not kidding. Where Paul was talking about love. Love is kind. Love is patient. Love does not envy. All these things that I quickly realized this relationship I'm in, that's not the kind of love that Paul was talking about. So a few months later, it was September 21st, 2014. I came to church one Sunday, and out of the blue, Stacy baptized me that morning. Later, I told my girlfriend at the time that I just got baptized. We're going to start living right. We can't have sex anymore. We're going to start living for God. Not long after that, she broke up with me. She couldn't handle that lifestyle. Something was still missing in my life. Something just wasn't right. So I started getting involved in church. I came and I started going to Tyler's Bible study on Thursday mornings. I joined one of the first life groups that we had here. I started working in the AV booth. I started working in the student ministry. I went through the Multiply discipleship program. I just tried to get involved in as much stuff as I could at the time. I didn't know at the time, but I was trying to move into this second chair. I didn't even know about these chairs at the time. I didn't. I was still living in an old recliner back home. But anyway, I got involved in all those, and then I got asked to go on a mission trip to Ghana, West Africa. Up until this point, nobody in this church knew the life that I've been living. And then September 20th, 2015, I was working in the AV booth back there. And I heard Todd's sermon 3 times that morning. And by the third sermon, I was in tears. I was breaking down crying. I was tired of living the lie to everybody. I was tired of it. I couldn't take it anymore. I left church. I went home. I threw away all my drugs. I threw away all my alcohol. Everything I had, I just threw it in the trash. I was finally ready to just drop those nets and give my life to Christ. That night, I talked to a couple of my closest friends here at the time and told them the life I've been living. A few days later, I met with Todd and Stacy and Zach. They didn't know what was going on. I got all 3 of them in one room. I confessed to them, this is the life I've been living. I've been coming to your church, and this is the life I've been living. I expected them to hit the road, or at least tell me you can't work with the youth anymore. But they didn't tell me any of that. They prayed for me. They helped me continue growing in my walk with God. And I thank them for that. For 20 years, I've been living my life for myself, not worried about anybody else, not worried about hurting feelings. I never once thought about what my eternity looked like. But now I was finally giving up everything in my life to follow Jesus. I was really comfortable in chair 2 now. So I continued doing that. A few months later, I went on that mission trip to Ghana, and we helped build a church. I've been back to Ghana 2 times since then to help lead a children's Bible camp. I was there back in August, and I had the opportunity to preach at that church that we helped build. I've gone with the youth to Mix for the last 3 years. I continue to help lead them on Sunday mornings. I help with the 8th grade life group. What's up, Gage? I just thank God for all that. Jeremiah 29:11 says that God has a plan for each one of us, a plan to prosper and not to harm. I've realized that we don't always know God's plan up front. Sometimes you have to just go through life and go through some hard times, and then you look back and see how God had used